Hi, everybody. This is Kari Nissena, actress, producer, and business coach for actors. I have the pleasure of being on Flynn Present, and today we're going to be talking about different things that you can do to pursue an acting career, some do's and don'ts, and I look forward to making your career happen. Thanks so much, and break legs.
Welcome into another great show for you. I've waited weeks to speak with our guest today. She is out on the West Coast, and boy, what a career she has had. She is an award-winning American actress, Kari Nissena. She has performed extensively on both stage and screen. She has covered just about every corner of this industry that you can possibly want to cover, including, listen to this, film, television, theater, radio, commercials, voiceovers, and even more. With literally hundreds of acting jobs, she is an actress. She is a producer. She is a business coach for actors, and that is what I want to get into because Kari Nissena, you're the first individual in my career, which is a long career, which I don't know of any other business coaches for actors. I know plenty for the ordinary person, but none for strictly saying I'm a business coach for actors. But before we get into that, Kari with a K, welcome on in. It's a pleasure to have you, dear.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much, Rick.
Absolutely. You know what? My show is called Rick Flynn Presents Confessions of a Showbiz Kid. Do you have any confessions of a showbiz gal for me today? Kari, we're delighted to have you here. You're in California. Where are you, Hollywood?
Yes, I'm in Hollywood.
Yeah, well...
It's an amazing place.
Yes. And with the career that you've had, obviously you've been there a lot of years. You're not new to Hollywood.
Yeah, I've been here a long time. I've also worked on the East Coast. I've lived in New York as well and worked there. But film is where my heart is. I love movies. So it's definitely still the place to be, even with all the changes in the industry. Still, nothing kind of beats Hollywood, right?
Boy, isn't that the truth?
It's
Absolutely. It is. It's where the action is, so to speak. I played drums out there as a musician. When I was out in California working, I was constantly with celebrities that were showing up when you least expect it, and I loved every second of it. I just constantly met good people, and I just had a wonderful time.
There's something beautiful about being in either LA or New York where you know that there's an accomplishment to just even being there. Meaning everybody there, everybody that you're surrounded by is pretty much chasing a dream of some sort.
Yes.
Just the creativity of the best all kind of flock to those two areas. And you can't help but be creative because it's everywhere.
That is so true. Now, you probably got started, I'm going to take a wild guess, in school, in theater, probably junior high, definitely by high school you must have been acting. Or did you do the community theater in your local community before you moved to California? How did you first get started in the actual on-stage business?
Yeah, I started very young, so it was always a part of my life. I was very fortunate that even though I grew up in a small town, they had a beautiful children's theater. So every Saturday for years and years, I would go and do my play for that day. You know, we would perform. And it was a nice theater where people would buy tickets and everything. And that was a Saturday morning. And then I'd go off to train for the rest of my Saturday because there was also an acting school. And for me, there was really no other option. It was like, okay, so this is what I'm doing with my life for sure. There's no doubt about that. So everything kind of lent itself towards that, whether it was planning on how to even just pay for my classes. You know, I got to go on this acting trip or whatever. It was always, that's what life was about. When it became time to actually go off to New York and study and work professionally, then it just was a natural next step. And then off to Hollywood, then that was really where, again, that's where I was meant to be. I love the stage, but at some point, this is something that I actually teach my actors too, is that we have to, as actors, we want to do it all, but there's only so many hours in the day. Doing theater is extremely time consuming. You're committing and you can't flake on the cast and crew, So when you commit to a play, it's usually many months long out of your life. And movie, like even let's just say a short film or something, that might only be one day of work, and then you can move on to the next thing. So sometimes we have to strategize and say, okay, what's the real goal? If it's movies, then I got to maybe pick and choose, and it's not forever, but I think that it's a good thing for people to know. If you have certain goals, focus on those goals instead of getting distracted with a million other things that we can do as artists. It's just one of those things that it's truly never ending. When I have actors come to me and they say that they've done it all, and really all they've done is maybe get headshots and acting classes and, maybe a couple other items on the to-do list have been done. But there's endless things that can be done in an acting career to move a career forward. It's really daunting sometimes. And I think that the outside world has no idea on how much work goes into someone. Like if you just see someone on a movie or a TV show where all they said is, "Here's your coffee, sir." That's their one big line. It probably took them easily 10 years and thousands of dollars and tons of auditions to get to that one point most of the time. Some people luck out, but not many. So usually it's really, really hard work. And it looks so easy when we watch a movie, right? It looks like, hey, I could do that. That's why so many people gravitate towards it. But I think it's a fascinating career. And I think that it's one of those things that really going after your dreams, whatever they are, is being focused and really taking the baby steps now as opposed to it being a big dream in the future, right? You know how we do our New Year's resolutions? Why does everybody do a New Year's resolution? Because it feels like it's off in the distance. Like, okay, this will be the year that I do such and such. But if you break that down and say, okay, so what does that mean I have to do right this moment? What is the next baby step I can do right this second? Just send that email, just write that letter, just make that phone call, whatever it is, post that thing online on social media. Sometimes I think that a career is built up on all those millions of little actions, and it can be challenging to make ourselves do those actions when life gets in the way. So that's how I gravitated towards, okay, this is going to be what my life is meant to be about. I was really fortunate in that there was no doubt about it, where I know a lot of people just struggle with, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I'm good at. Luckily, that was just not an issue. That was always what I was going to do no matter what. But if you have that attitude and just say, okay, this is what I'm going to do no matter what, whether it works out, whether it feels good at that moment, whether I get results right away or not, then you actually have a shot. This crazy acting world. You know what I mean?
Oh, I heard you say that the attitude you preferred, that you appreciated most, was there is no other way. You will do this. If I could paraphrase what you said there is no turning back. I will do this. It's a positive attitude indeed, but when they've had me in front of these academies where the DJs are up and coming and they're trying to make it and they don't have a clue what in the world they're going to do, I advise them slightly differently. Here's what I think. When you're not in Hollywood, all right, now you're where the action is. You're where the action is constantly. You're at that and New York City. I will understand when you live in New York or when you live in Hollywood, you can have the attitude you just expressed. But when you're in Cincinnati, Ohio, when you're in the Midwest where we watch the corn grow, okay, when you're in a non-show business related town, for the most part, yes, you can have a career as I did, but a lot of times there may be occasions where it could be a down week, a down 2 weeks. So yeah, we had a plan plan B. I always tell the jocks coming up, especially if they're married, especially if they either have or want to have a child, putting food on the table. Now, will you go with me that far?
1,000%. And that's not a plan B. That's survival.
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
And what do? You also take control of your career and you start a podcast, right?
Well, that's right. I was blessed to retire early. I was retired for 10 years. I love work and I wanted to get back. And you know what they've said since I've come back doing the podcast? They said, "You've not lost anything, sir," you know? And that's not bad for an old man.
And I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to also be retired and then get to work, right?
Right.
Because maybe the stress of, the day-to-day job is gone, so you can actually do it with full enjoyment. And I have a lot of clients who come back to the industry after having children or after retiring or whatever. And then they're like, okay, now it's my time. Now I get to go after the dream that I didn't maybe get to do when I was a dentist or when I was whatever, when I took the safe route for mom and dad because they wanted me to be a lawyer. And now I'm going to be an actor or whatever. And I think that's so cool. People can recreate themselves. You can have many lives in one lifetime. And I think for those in a smaller market, hey, I worked all the time in a smaller market. And that was back in the day when there were not the opportunities that exist now. I mean, now you can have an entire studio straight from your bedroom or your closet. There's tons of voiceover actors all over the planet that their little studio is actually physically their closet because it's nice and insulated, right?
Totally. It's a dead room with a good sound.
Yeah. And what happens is you can make an entire career straight from using your voice and from using your computer. And now, within the last couple of years, you don't even have to be in LA. You don't have to be in New York because every audition pretty much now is online, which that has evens the playing field. It's so exciting because there's more opportunities than ever. There's more jobs than ever. There's more streaming platforms. It's 1,000 times easier to film your own demo reels or film your own webisode or create. You don't have to wait for the phone to ring. I never waited for the phone to ring. I never thought that was the way to do a career. But now it's a lot easier and a lot less money to do things that would have cost a lot of money 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. The technology has gotten so exciting that it's really like, okay, what do I want to do with it? What do I want to create? I'm not going to wait to get hired. I'm going to go and just design my own film. I'm going to go and get a bunch of friends together and make a series or write a script or whatever. The possibilities are just, it's so exciting. You can tell I get excited about it.
I heard you say, you always talk about that you can actually live life enjoying. You said you can enjoy the word no.
Yes. Most people want to flee from it, right? Most people feel like the word means I'm no good.
They get depressed.
Yeah. First of all, this is not for the faint of heart, right? You have to be mentally really strong, I think, to have a career. And if you're not, whatever success you have just magnifies the insecurities or the depression or the whatever. So you got to take care of yourself first before thinking that, if I just get an agent, then I'll be happy. If I just win that Oscar, then I'll be happy. If I just book that movie, then I'll be happy. And that is absolutely the wrong way to go about life, not even talking about being an actor. It's the wrong way to go about life. Say, okay, why don't you work on yourself being happy first, no matter what the circumstances are. And then what happens is that the universe comes to your aid and gives you goodies to multiply that happiness. And that's why when someone isn't stable and then they get to a certain level, that's why they sometimes self-destruct, right? We see it all the time in the news. And it's unfortunate because sometimes they're geniuses as far as their talent goes, but they just can't handle all the stresses that come with success or with people knowing who they are or whatever. And there's a lot that comes with that. So it's so important to just be like, okay, I've got to, whatever the insecurities are, if I hate the word no, if I can't handle rejection, then you don't want to be in the job that has the most rejection on the planet, right?
Boy, isn't that the truth.
You want to reshape it. It's like, okay, I love doing this, whatever an artist is or whatever the dream is. If I love doing that, then I have to just know, guess what? There are going to be some days that it totally sucks. There are going to be days where I hear no 15 times, or I am going to be auditioning way more than I will be booking for most people. Yes, you do hear these freak stories where someone books the very first audition that they've ever been out on. There is such thing as beginner's luck, and sometimes there is that energy of just right place, right time, and they hadn't learned the wrong techniques yet, right? They just knew how to say that line or whatever. So that does happen sometimes, but at the end of the day, you might have 10, 20, 100 auditions before you book. That's a lot of no to get the joy of hearing one yes. So you have to find peace in the journey and peace in the audition process and peace in just the day-by-day actions it takes to be a successful actor or whatever, astronaut, dentist, I don't care what you are out there. But just knowing, okay, it's going to take a lot of work, whatever it is. I think that that's really important because I see that a lot where people are actually surprised on how hard it is. I'm like, why are you surprised? Everybody wants to be an actor or a movie star or whatever. I'm always intrigued by the fact that people just think they're just going to, get off the bus and all of a sudden just be discovered or something. It's like, why would that happen?
They hear the story about the soda shop gal out there in your neck of the woods where she was seated at the...
Lana Turner.
Yeah, Lana Turner at the fountain there in the old drugstore, and that launched a career. Somebody walked in and saw her. And right, but that's the exception. That's not the rule.
It's the total exception. And guess what? She happened to be gorgeous, and she happened to be also, for whatever reason, she came to this planet knowing how to say the lines and to be on camera. You know what I mean? Not everybody has that. A lot of people have to learn it.
There are people who say, I've acted. Now, I would like to stay in the business, but it doesn't have to be as an actor. I'll do something else behind the scenes. Let somebody else in front of the camera for a while. There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, especially when you have so many friends and just love just the creativity of being on set and stuff like that. Yeah, there are times where people get success early, like child stars, and then they're like, oh yeah, this isn't what I want. And that's totally okay, especially if you start as a kid, because then for me, I knew what I wanted, but most kids are going after what their parents want most of the time at that age, So if they then discover that that is not what it's all cracked up to be, then okay, time to do something else. That's fine. Ron Howard, he's one of my favorite directors. He's amazing.
I think he's a wonderful human being.
You never know. And a great human being, yes. So he was just a baby when he was Opie, right?
Absolutely.
But he was great as Opie. He was great as Richie. And then I think he found his true calling, which was being one of the best directors in Hollywood.
I agree. I agree.
But he knew also how to talk to actors, right? Because he was an actor. He'd been on camera for his whole life. So that led him to what he was really meant to do, which was be a director.
Right. Now,
so, yeah, people can change courses.
Somewhere along the line in life, you decided to become, like I mentioned, you're the first person I've ever met in a long, long career that specifically says, I am a business coach for actors. How did that happen? Did that happen because in your experience, you know a lot of people who are coming up in the business and they constantly ask you questions, or there was a need for it that you perceived just in experiencing life in Hollywood? How did that happen? And are people receptive to the idea?
Yes, all of the above. Yeah. So I think what happened is I was always one of those people that people came to when they had questions, even as a kid,
Right.
helping them with their troubles and stuff like that. And it naturally came out of time in the business. People end up asking you stuff. And year after year after year, I just knew thousands of actors because you can't not when you're in it for a long time. So people would ask me things, and for, I'd say, a good 10 years, I didn't even turn it into a business, right? It was just like, okay, people would ask me stuff, and I would tell people, oh, cast that person, or, oh, yeah, you guys would work well together, or let me help you with this, or whatever. And then it just became so obvious. It's like, okay, well, obviously, I need to do this on a larger scale. You know, it is something that people need. I've also taught the craft of acting, and I enjoy the craft, teaching the craft of acting, but there are so many actors who need help with the business side. They come from theater, they come from acting classes. So a lot of them know how to act, but they don't know how to book, and they don't know how to get a job, and they don't know how to make a living as an actor. So that's where I come in, and I help them with, it really depends on the individual, but I help them with their online presence. I help them with their IMDb. I help them with sometimes press, sometimes with getting interviews, sometimes with getting on red carpet, sometimes if they're newer, then they need help with just getting set up with like their Actors Access profiles or their headshot and resume, things like that. And even when they're not new, you know, a lot of times people need to revamp stuff or work on their branding. So there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle where the acting business is a business. And yet so many people have a degree in theater, but a degree in theater has almost nothing to do with if the goal is to be a TV star or movie star. They really don't have a lot to do with each other. You know what I mean? So yes, maybe they helped you become a better artist, but then they come to Hollywood or New York or just start going after their career wherever they are, and they realize that they don't know even how to get an agent or how to really do anything. How do you get to the casting directors? How do you get to the producers and directors? And that, to me, is such a missing skill set in our industry where it's just really hard for actors to find those kinds of answers and to find people that are reputable too, because there's a lot of scam companies out there that I worry about, especially in the smaller markets where like people will go up to kids in malls and say, you should be a star. Here, now give me $10,000, you know, and then their parents want them to be a star and they want to make their kids happy. So they're shelling out all this money for really bad headshots, and it's not going to go anywhere.
No, that's a scam. They're con artists.
Yes, and you have to know that agents and managers only get a percentage of the work that you book, okay? They don't take fees. That's important. I try to say that wherever I can, especially in the smaller markets. They only get paid if you get paid. So please be careful, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Yeah, but I think that it's really important to find not only a community where you have like-minded people going after the same dream, but it's important to be around people that know more than you. You know, it's real easy as an actor to sometimes stay in an acting class that makes you feel good, but you're there for like 5 years and haven't really improved that much, you know? So it doesn't even matter if you're in a bigger market. Now everything's online. So wherever you are, as long as you have internet and a computer, a cell phone, then you can take classes online, you can meet industry people online, you can audition online. Just make sure that it's reputable and make sure that you Google the names and that you know that they are legit. And if any parents of child actors are out there, be extra careful and learn about the laws for kids, because luckily they do have some extra protection over adult actors. So definitely learn about that. And there's always so much to learn that it looks like the perception when you're just starting out is that, oh, I'm going to get an agent and a headshot and some acting classes. And then most people don't know what to do after that. That's like the basic. Those are just a couple little items out of thousands. So yeah, go and get an agent. That's fine. You can get your work on your own without an agent, by the way. But if you want to get an agent, go ahead. But the headshots, the classes, the online portals like Actors Access, that's a legitimate website to be on. IMDb is one of the things that I teach. The Internet Movie Database is so fascinating because we don't have anything else like that in the industry, where not only can you look up people that you've worked with, like if I did a movie 20 years ago and I forgot the name of a PA, I can go and look up the cast and crew and there's the list. That's so unbelievably helpful, or if you're searching for a new agent or manager, you can go to IMDb Pro and look up a full list of agents in your area. It can help narrow it down and see who's on their client roster. That is such a good tool. If you're producing your own stuff, you can put your own projects out on IMDb as long as you have proof that it exists. So to me, that's one of my favorite topics to teach because it's hard for people to get help with. So I'm like the go-to coach for that. You can tell I enjoy that topic a lot.
I can tell you enjoy the whole business. You enjoy show business. This is Confessions of a Showbiz Girl we have today. Everybody, Kari, talk to me, girl. Talk to me. How does somebody get a hold of you if they want to use you as a business coach for actors? If they want to get a hold of you, is it through your website? Is it some other way? What are they going to do?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I'm either Kari Nissena or Actor Transformation on most social media. ActorTransformation.com is the easiest way. And I actually have a little gift on there. So if you are in the biz and you want to get some help on IMDb, there's a free gift on there that has 3 ways to improve your IMDb. And I also have all my links on that website. So I also have a YouTube channel that has a bunch of free training videos for actors. So some of them are about IMDb, but many of them are about just the business side of the biz. And I would love to have everybody over there and see if I can help you out.
www.actortransformation.com. Is that it?
That's it. Thanks.
All righty. Absolutely. Oh, I
That's
think
when
it's
you love
great.
Technology, right?
Isn't that? Oh, you know what? How many years? Now, this is right. We used to have to, if somebody wants your voice, you've done voiceovers, you had to get the tapes there by such and such a time. Now you can do the voice digitally. There is no tape, and you can email the completed result and have it there instantly.
It's an amazing world we live in, isn't it?
Oh, I'm loving. You know what? I dreamed for years of a world where there was no more tape.
Yeah. And now, seriously, even are auditioning when they're on vacation. It's crazy. It's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I heard you say that certain people, they're reticent about bragging on themselves. And what did you say? You said that those who don't want to brag about themselves are people who are deliberately, even though they don't realize it, holding themselves back. Now, explain what you meant by that.
Yes. Now, the word brag, yes, bragging does not sound great. But what you need to do is let people know you exist, right? So there are ways around it. If someone is super humble or super shy, I totally get that. Believe it or not, I'm actually an introvert. I'm all loud and everything right at this moment. But my core is absolutely an introvert. And I think that what happens is sometimes people say, oh, I don't want to brag. I don't want to, I don't want to toot my own horn kind of thing. But guess what? What if that casting director that has the perfect role that you're meant to have, and they just don't even know you're a human being on planet Earth? They cannot bring you in for an audition if they do not know you exist. There's no way. They can't bring you in. Okay. So yes, you don't have to brag, but what you do have to do is be findable online. You have to be able to be found. You have to have your marketing tools to a certain level where people can find you, find a little bit of your work, and know how to contact you. And that should be common sense, but it's not. It's really not. There are a lot of actors who don't want to brag about their projects. I'm like, well, then how is anyone going to know that you're working, right? And work begets work. So if people think that you're a starving actor who never gets any work, that's not good. They need to think that you're a working professional who is sought after. And guess what? You just booked that. You just performed in that play. You just appeared on TV on Tuesday night. Whatever it is, even if they're smaller roles or whatever, that starts to add up in people's minds as, okay, this is a busy working professional. Then it becomes if there's a role that you're right for or not. Then it becomes a different issue, So yes, we don't brag. I know that's the word we use for that. But what you have to do is still let people know that you exist. Because otherwise, what's the point? I think sometimes we get so far in our head about all the things. I don't want to brag as one form of fear of success, probably a little bit, if not a lot of it. But having people find you to be able to hire you is one of the biggest challenges in this industry. And why does it seem like certain actors are working over and over again? Yeah, maybe they're great to work with and maybe they're super talented, but they were probably always super talented and always super great to work with, right? So what was the difference? Now they know that that person is talented.
So what you're saying is there are certain actions, a person can take actions which by their shyness, quote unquote, they're keeping themselves small. They don't want to succeed. They're harming themselves because of modesty, I guess you can say, when you got to go out and sell what it is you've got to sell. There's nothing wrong with being a salesman if the end result is it helps you, it helps your career, and puts food on the table. There's nothing wrong with that.
And if you don't like the word brag, or you don't like the word sales, or you don't like whatever those words are that are triggers, then all you have to do is change the way that you're looking at it and changing the way that you're putting it out in the world. So one of the things that I help my clients do is get interviews or get on red carpet, because what's nice about that is when you have a little bit of press, that written article or that interview on the red carpet or whatever is doing the bragging for you. Right? You don't have to brag.
Yes,
because the camera's on you. And if someone's writing an article about you, well, guess what? They're doing the bragging. There's no bragging involved. It's just reporting the fact. It's just reporting what that person is up to. So it takes away any of the yuckiness of maybe there's sometimes a little bit of brainwashing that goes on as a child. Maybe it's your parents said, don't brag. Maybe your church said, be humble. And you misinterpreted that into the acting career. Say, okay, you can still be humble and a very kind human being, but also still get yourself out there and let people see your work, because they need to see your talent and they need to see what you can do in order to even consider you to bring you in or to hire you. So let your marketing tools do the bragging for you. Let your press do the bragging for you if that is an issue. There's always a workaround. For whatever mental block someone has, there's always a way to solve that problem.
And you always tell your students, you say to them, the way you stand out is to be yourself. I've heard you say that. Now, what if the yourself that you're advising the party to be, what if that yourself is like you? They're an introvert, they're shy. You don't sound shy. You don't sound like an introvert, but you know the business. You know how to sell your wares, what you have. I don't care how shy you are, like the Pointer Sisters. Remember? He's so shy. All right, that's fine. If he wants to be an actor, snap out of it and tell him what you've done. Get those gigs booked up, and an agent is going to help you a little bit, but you've got to sell yourself. Make yourself stand out. And what do you say to somebody who wants to be themselves, but they tell you, well, Kari, I'm too shy to talk about myself. You know what? They're in the wrong business as far as I'm concerned. Would you agree?
Well, and you can sometimes delegate too. So there is the other side of that coin of like, okay, knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are is great. Okay. So if you know that you are not a public speaker, then guess what? There are people who have made it that are not. You look at like a Daniel Day-Lewis, who I can't even remember an interview with him, right? You know, and he's probably one of the greatest actors to ever live, but he was only known for his craft. But somehow people had to originally, when he wasn't a celebrity, they had to find him. So how did they find him? Sometimes it's a matter of just working. Let's say you are a shy person. Well, a lot of people that are shy are not shy when they're on stage, you know, or they're not shy when they're performing because they're being somebody else. They're being a character. So it's a completely different thing. That's sometimes why a lot of actors become actors, is because they can be crazy and wild on the stage or on camera where they aren't like that in their real life. And that's cool. That's fine. But you can delegate. If you hate social media, let's just say, you can hire a social media manager, right? You can get agents and managers to pitch you, you know, and hopefully that will work for you, right? So there are ways to make that happen. You have to know what you're great at and be willing to work on what you're not so great at, okay? But the mental stuff is everything. It's your entire career is the mental stuff.
That is so true. Kari, as usual, the Rick Flynn Show whizzes on by. Do you have any doubt that if I were to ask you to be on a show like Joe Rogan, he'll put you on, and if it sounds good, he'll go 3 hours? And you know what? I could do 5 hours with you, and we would not get this topic done justice. And got to have somebody like yourself who can tell them what time it is. And will you tell them what time it is if they contact you?
All the time. People need to hear what's working and what's not. And there's no benefit just saying, oh, it's great, if something is not great. You know, we need to work on what's not great. So everybody's at a different level. Everybody can improve. I don't care if you won 5 Oscars, you can improve. There's more to learn. There's always more to learn. So getting help from people that have your best interests at heart and can really help you. That is one of the big clues to this industry.
Exactly. Now, a lot of the self-destruction in rock and roll, in acting as well, because you really cannot have the agent and the manager manage you, so to speak, without having the knowledge, the self-confidence, and the wherewithal to say, I should go that direction, I should do this, I should do that. There are those that think the world owes them a living. No, you carve out your own niche and you get it yourself. Is that right?
100%. I don't even remember if in that movie Swingers, but Jon Favreau has the line how when he moved to LA, people made it sound like they were giving out sitcoms at the airport. Is how it sounds before you get here, right?
That's
and
so
then,
true.
And then when you get here, you're like, cricket. Yeah, so you have to make it happen. And that does not mean just getting an agent or manager. They're just one tiny piece of the puzzle. They're just a part of your team, and that's all. At the end of the day, you're responsible for your own career.
Kari, listen real close. There they are.
That's what it sounds like.
I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, with the crickets in the background, I want to thank our special guest today. Her name is Kari with a K. Kari. Nissena. N as in Nancy. Issena. Kari Nissena. Actress, producer, business coach for actors. www.actortransformation.com. That is where you get a hold of her. She'll tell you what time it is. And before I let you out of here, Kari, I had a gal, they kept saying to me, they said, Rick, we know so-and-so, she's a professional actor, and she was. She came on my show, and she said, Rick, the thing that I would advise the students out there listening is that once you get that union card, that restricts you to only working where you need that card. You're not allowed to go back and work on this, that, or the other. She said there are people with those cards that do not have the necessary experience behind them to produce a career. They're missing out on opportunities. Now, true or false?
That can be absolutely true. Yeah, sometimes actors are just dying to get their SAG card, and sometimes it's too early because then they cannot do all the non-union jobs out there, So I always recommend, sometimes that's been a goal of some of my clients, and then we work on it and then they get their card. It's when it's the right time. And I usually coach, wait until you have to join. There becomes a point in the acting world where there's actually usually the right time to do it. It's when you already have a resume, you already have training, you already have lots of experience acting, and you can compete at a union level. Because once you become union, you can't do non-union anymore.
There you go.
And it's important to know that. One more little trick.
Go ahead.
Yeah. One little trick that an actor can do is they can look at their resume and say, how many of these things are non-union? And then if they say, okay, 19 out of the 20 things are non-union, then that means all of those 19 jobs you would have not been able to do if you were union. Okay, that's one way to look at it. And then, then it becomes, okay, is it the right time? And then when it's the right time, you celebrate and say, yay, it's a new milestone, and on to the next thing. There's always the next milestone in your career.
Exactly. You can become professional too soon. That would be a mistake. You're going to become professional at the right time. Don't let it harm your ability to gain valuable experience up on the stage. There we go. Did I say it right?
Yeah, or on camera. Either way. There's different unions for different areas. But yes, absolutely. Whatever you want to do, get the experience first. Don't rush in until it's the right.
Oh, my. There we go. The career of somebody that accepted that SAG card too early. Yes, the gigs are lined up.
Their agents make their career.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Oh my. Our guest today, ladies and gentlemen, Kari with a K, Kari Nissena, N as in Nancy, Issena. This is Rick Flynn speaking. It's been fun, but I've got to run. On behalf of myself and our very special guest today from Hollywood, actress, producer, business coach, for actors, Kari Nissena at actortransformation.com, www.actortransformation.com. That is where you get a hold of her. It's been a great show with a fabulous guest. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next Wednesday with a brand new show. Have a great day, everyone. Good night.
Thanks so much, Rick, for having me on the show. It was a pleasure. And for all of those actors out there, please go after your dreams and break legs.